Part 2. Some years later. From 1970 to early 1994. Chapter 20. 1970. Dakar, Senegal. Put your head down. In Wolof we say Sejul, Salamat explained. Tenel say bop, Vanessa said, lowering her head so that Salamat could braid her hair at the back. Salamat started tightly at the scalp, and within seconds Vanessa could feel her fingers flying down the strand of hair. Tenel say bop, Salamat repeated, fastening the braid with a small white bead. Alas, now let's hear the days of the week. Vanessa smiled. Salamat was determined to teach her Wolof, and she felt grateful. She had learned more Wolof with Salamat in a month than in her whole first year in Dakar. Alteen, Talata, Ulaba, Alksames, she began, stopping on the word for Thursday. Non. Regard. Salamat held the braid she was plaiting with one hand, and bent over to show her how to position her lips. Snest pas difficile, she insisted, pointing to her throat with the comb. Vanessa listened carefully. To her ears, it sounded like Alame. Alksames. She tried again and started to laugh. It's difficult. Non, snest pas difficile. Eh, she squealed as Salamat tugged at her hair. It's pas gentil toy. And are you sure I need cream? Salamat rubbed more Vaseline along the hairline. I have greasy hair, you know. Grease. Lagris. See, you need it, Salamat insisted. Il te faut? Believe me. Okay, Vanessa nodded, smiling to herself at the way Salamat could be so stubborn about such things. Is it paining you? No, it's fine, she replied, even though her scalp felt like it was on fire. But she wasn't about to admit it, certainly not when little girls routinely had their hair braided and never complained. She tilted her head to better see the children playing hopping and clapping games outside. It was a bright sunny Dakar day, and the children were happy. Beyond the main road, others would be diving off rocks into the brilliant blue waters of the Atlantic. Vanessa thought of writing an article on children's games in Senegal and comparing them to English games of hopscotch and skipping. She wished that all children could be as happy as these, remembering her interview with Flora and Wappa and the heartbreaking rise of Biafran orphans. You not talk to Paul's pa? Salamat asked. I'm watching them. Vanessa gestured in the direction of the children. That's why you need to marry and have one of your own, like your god. Son. Salamat twisted her hips for Vanessa to see the baby. Fast asleep. Vanessa smiled at the tight little bundle. All that was visible of Suleiman were the tufts of hair on the back of his head and two pink feet sticking out from under the wrapper with which Salamat used to hold him. To her back, the cloth stretched tightly round his back and bottom and was tied in a secure knot beneath Salamat's breasts. What a beautiful child, and yet the father had never seen him. Jean-Luc had promised Salamat that they would be married. He had sworn to take her back to France, but as soon as she fell pregnant he had abandoned her, not wanting to be the father of a half-caste child. If Jean-Luc could see his son, Vanessa felt certain he would change his mind. But Salamat refused to discuss the subject. She said that if Suleiman wanted to meet his father one day he could do so, but until that time she would manage just fine on her own. And that was Salamat. If she felt sad or sorry for herself, she never showed it, and Vanessa understood. She looked at Suleiman again, and imagined him as her child. She and Theo could have had a child like Suleiman, this gorgeous mocha brown baby. Gee, so how is Abubakar? Salamat asked. Ah. Vanessa slapped the air dismissively with one hand. There had been a time when she had quite liked him. Abubakar had been generous and a good companion, and SHC had learnt a lot from him. They had taken long walks together down the route DC La Corniche, discussing African politics. She was grateful to him for introducing her to people who helped her find stories to send to Reuters, as well as contacts with the local paper, Paris Dakar. You know, you could have been his duke's wife, Salamat remarked. No way, Vanessa exclaimed, pulling her head forward so that Salamat lost her grip. Salamat laughed, pushing Vanessa's head back into place. Cultures are different, non? Maybe 2 wives is too hard for your culture. And you? Would you be a second wife? Vanessa challenged, knowing already what Salamat would say. No, but I'm not a Muslim, she replied. Nor am I. But you don't practice Christianity either, so Sieva, non? No. Gee Bonalas, you should marry Edward, Salamat suggested. Edward? Ooh. Salamat, you never give up. You're almost as bad as him. Vanessa laughed. Gee, but he's good, non? Salamat insisted. Yes, he's good, but I'm happy as I am. Touts Yule, Vanessa said, reflecting on her life in Dakar, where she was doing what she had always dreamt of doing. Writing about African art and culture. She wrote about that warm edge of life. Africa's laughter, the celebrations, the rituals and people's generosity. Nobody who came to Africa could miss these things. In the mornings she wrote, and after lunch she took the articles to the Reuters office to be telexed to London or Paris. In the late afternoons she did things such as this, chatting, sipping mint tea, and watching the world go by. So you never had a lover before you come to Dakar? Salamat asked. See, Vanessa replied. Then what happened? He go with another lady? I'm not sure. Well, maybe. It had been 2 years since she'd last heard from Teo. After she left Lagos he had written to her several times, but she had not replied. His letters hadn't said whether or not he was going to marry the woman. And he hadn't mentioned the baby. Si c'est en anglais? Salamat asked. Non, Nigerian, Vanessa replied. Ah, les Nigérians, ils ont deux argent avec le pétrole, n'est-ce pas? Salama. To rubbed her fingers together. Why, you are not together. Did he ask you to marry? No. It just didn't work. Cela n'a pas marché. Vanessa shrugged her shoulders. She still couldn't talk about it. Hélas, il faut trouver un mari. Qu'est le genre que tu préfères? Sal. Amit asked. You mean, what do I want in a husband? Ooh, Salamat nodded. How about someone like Sembine? Sembine? Sembine Ausman. Ah, mais you know him, non? So you have to show him you love him. Salamat said excitedly. No, I was only joking, Vanessa laughed. He is very handsome, but not there man for me. Too many women like him. Far too famous. So that says you still love the Nigerian. Salamat reasoned, holding their mirror for Vanessa to view her finished hair. Vanessa laughed. Elas? Salamat asked. It's beautiful. Cursed très. Non, non, non. I don't talk about your hair. I speak about your man. You love him still, non? Le Nigerian. Oof. It's finished. Cursed finny. Geixna. Vanessa added, remembering a word Salamat had taught her. Salamat laughed. Non. You say Geexna, for example, if you finish with something, like I finish to plait your hair. But if you finish with a man, it's more better to say Sanudigti Geexna. Sanudigti Geexna, Vanessa repeated. She said it so well and with such conviction that they both started laughing. And it was good to laugh, but later that night Vanessa went back to her flat and wept. It was the first time in many months that she had cried about Theo.